All right, welcome to this episode. Today, we are going to dive into a really important topic. What are the challenges women face in leadership today? And we have a special guest, Stephanie Ritter Maat, will be joining me. She is a life transition and success coach. She started Courageous Living Today several years ago and came into fruition during the toughest time of her life, going through a divorce. And those things aren't easy. Stephanie is a well-known speaker, Bible school instructor, entrepreneur, and has over 25 years experience in the field of human resources. She partners with people in transition, single parenting, co-parenting, divorce, career transition, personal growth, and helps you to not give up. Stephanie partnered with her clients to help them maximize their gifts and talents within them to reach higher and go further than they ever thought possible. And you will find her links in my description below in the video. And we're going to get rolling on this topic. And Stephanie, so tell us, what are the challenges women are facing in leadership today?
Oh my. Well, a challenge can be a good challenge, right? I mean, it doesn't always have to be on the negative side. I think we've known for years that there's always been a little bit of a difference in the workforce with men and women.
Mm-hmm.
But I have seen a lot of success stories with women in my years of being in corporate. And so I think it's just a matter of, we've seen a lot during the pandemic. There was a huge exit in the workforce. A lot of them were women, and a lot of it was more around the child care issues, right? Child care centers closed down. Who was going to take care of the children? And so that was huge in the last couple of years. And so you see a lot of those women are trying to just reinventing themselves. What's the new path going to look like? Do I go back to where I was at? Some of them are now entrepreneurs. And usually in the most difficult times in the economy is when you see the most surge in new businesses.
Mm-hmm.
So I think with women, there's going to always be challenges. But I think it's a matter of how do you look at those challenges. If you want to move up the corporate ladder, what's that going to look like? And there are challenges there. I was a vice president in banking years ago. Mm-hmm. Definitely, it takes a while to get there. But if the right people notice you and notice that you come to the table ready and prepared, mm-hmm. That opens doors for you. And I was fortunate enough to have a CEO that did that. He honored hard work. Not slavery work, where you're there 24/7 all the time, but more like, you're prepared. You show up. And so he honored that, and that opened the doors for me when I was in banking. And so I see it in different areas. I think it's just a matter of keep believing in yourself, keep moving forward, and what's, where do you want to end up, and find people that you can help along the way, because they're going to help you get to where you want to go to. That's what I think Zig Ziglar talks about. If you want to be in that leadership and be successful, help someone else, because they're going to help you. Yeah. And so there are challenges, but I also believe there are many stories of women who are making a difference that you don't always hear about. I've been fortunate enough that whether I believe in their politics or not, we have a woman governor in my state. Mm-hmm. The company, the hospital I work for, has a woman president and has several executive leadership positions with women. Yeah. You see it, there's authors. You see many women in different economic statuses that are making a difference, whether it's, being an entrepreneur, helping out in the community, mm-hmm. Pro bono work. There's more stories out there and more success stories. We just may not always hear about them. And so you kind of have to do a little bit of a digging to see, okay, who's making a difference in this area, and how did they do that? How did they get to where they're at? Mm-hmm. And read about them, because there's going to be challenges, no matter what background we are, economic status, male, female, there's always going to be those challenges. It's a matter of, do we keep pushing through? Are we going to let society define us and say, no, you can't? Or are you going to say, no, I can do this. I can move forward in this capacity, whether it's politics, the motor vehicle business. Again, there's so many success stories out there. You just need to kind of pull back the weeds and look for them, mm-hmm. Because there are many women that are out there that are making a difference in every arena. I believe in every arena. I'm always glad, whether, like I said, I agree with politics or not. I'm always glad when I see women that are very much involved in even politics, even running for president, because I'm thinking, yes, You know what? Nothing should stop us. We should go all the way. If you want to be the president, run for that presidency. But it does start somewhere, and it starts with maybe that community work, getting to know the right people, and carving out that path. So I believe there are challenges, but I also know if you believe in yourself and you get the right people around you, and you move in those directions, stay flexible, be open to change, just like the pandemic. I
Mm-hmm.
lost my job for the second time in a pandemic, and had to reinvent, and keep moving forward and not give up. And I think that's true for anyone. And it's just really matter, just keep persevering and keep believing, so that no
Mm-hmm.
matter what those challenges are for women, just keep moving forward and know that there are hundreds that have paved the way for you to get to where you want to go. You just
Yeah.
have to kind of find what that path is and keep moving forward. And I could rattle off a number of women that I admire. I truly admire Kathy Ireland. One day I'm going to be interviewing her. She's one of the people I really admire, because it started out with her being in the modeling business, and she talks
Yeah.
about the things she went through in the modeling business. It wasn't
Yeah.
all, woohoo, great. And then I think she started her entrepreneurship with socks, if I remember correctly. And then, she got that, and she got some of her brand in Kmart. And then when Kmart was going down, she said that really opened her eyes, because she realized all her eggs were in one basket. And
Yeah.
she had to figure out, how do I not go down with the ship, right? And
Uh-huh.
she had a connection with Warren Buffett, who was able to obviously give her great advice, but she still had to implement it. And
Yeah.
so she touches so many different industries, and she gives continually, and she's got a servant heart.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's Jamie Kern Lima, who wrote the book Believe It. And she
Yeah.
talks about her journey with the cosmetic it. And that was a tough one that she went through for years.
Yeah.
And then she just kept believing in what she was supposed to do. She kept believing and believing it. And now look at, she's top of her game. And give, servant hearted. I think of Maria Shriver, whether you agree with the politics or not, doesn't matter. She's making a difference in the world of Alzheimer's. And
Mm-hmm.
she's using her name and her platform to reach different areas, to reach different platforms, to bring attention to this particular area of Alzheimer's. So they're out there,
Yeah.
but they all start with those small beginnings. But you can make a way, and you can make a difference. You just you don't want to give up. And these ladies didn't give up. Shalene Johnson, who is with Beachbody, but she also does a lot with Instagram. She has, I think, 6 or 7 funnels of income, because she realizes I got to have different ways to bring money in. But
Mm-hmm.
again, just keeps persevering, keeps looking for ways to reinvent herself, but to reach other people, to make a difference wherever she's at.
Yeah.
But they're out there. So don't give up, is what my whole message is. Don't give up, because you can find a way,
Mm-hmm.
and it may take time, but don't let those voices define you and discourage you. Let that motivate you to say, okay, let that no be your yes to keep moving forward.
Yeah. Well, what about, I mean, you've touched on a lot of different people we know about, people we hear about. I really chuckled about the Kathy Ireland, because it made me think back to, I remember when she was in Sports Illustrated, and I had her pictures posted all over my locker in high school. So, that just made me kind of giggle there. So you could tell what my interests were. I was a typical male. All right,
Right.
let's just say that. All right, but let's think about our post-millennial females,
Mm-hmm.
ones that are either in university, about to finish, and trying to decide what to do, or maybe they're in university and they're like, I've had enough of this. I want to do my own thing. Um, what kind of advice would you give to those younger women
Mm-hmm.
starting out?
Yeah. Well, one, I'm a believer in gleaning from other people.
Hmm.
So even at my age, at 59, I glean from the younger and the mature generation, because there's so much wisdom and knowledge in that. Even the ones starting out who you think, well, they haven't done that much. No, there's a lot of wisdom in the younger generation, how they think, what they perceive.
Hmm.
They call us out. My daughter calls me out a lot on different things. And I'm so glad, because I realize sometimes we can get very tunnel vision, and what we believe and what we think, that unconscious bias
Yeah.
can sneak in and really hinder you.
Yeah.
So for the younger women that are coming up, I love you. I love that generation because their eyes are open. They're open to possibilities. They probably still have that, that charge within them, like, I can do this, I can be whatever I want to be. And I would say, keep doing that. And realize there's all different generations ahead of you, that think differently. You think about the baby boomers are very much 8 to 5. They go to work. You work for that corner office. It doesn't get handed to you. You have a different disciplinary behind you. And then you have the X and the Y. We're all different, but we bring so much to the table. And we have to be open to that communication to learn from each other.
Yeah.
So I would say to the younger people, don't get discouraged with the other generations. Learn from them and teach them. Teach them, because we don't always see things the way that you do. And really be open to learning and growing, but glean from the women that have gone ahead of you. Even if you don't agree with everything about them, that's okay.
Yeah.
But how did they get there? I'm a big believer in, if I want to be like a Kathy Ireland and be an entrepreneur and hit different markets. I mean, the Sports Illustrated days are long gone, but if I want to be that entrepreneur, I'm going to look for women that are doing those type of things.
Yeah.
And I don't have to mimic them, but I can take and glean from them and put my handprint on it and make it my own and keep moving forward. And so I'm very passionate. My podcast, when I started, is going to be about the women of the different generations talking to one another on different topics, because we do see things differently, but there's so much to learn.
Yeah.
I would say, stay open, look to the women around you, glean from them, learn from them, and then teach them also. Hey, here's what I'm thinking. Because again, those two generations coming together can change anything in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
And if they're in college right now and they're just like, man, I'm done with this, that's a personal decision. I know my daughter has struggled with that at different times about being in college. And I think education is important, but I know it doesn't always open the doors like we thought it always did.
Yeah.
Because there's so many opportunities to be an entrepreneur now, and you don't have to have a degree for that. So it's a personal decision, but I would say before you just, turn the lights off, is to think about, okay, if I still get this degree, it can still open some doors for me, which can then open doors for me to do some of the things that I want to do.
Yeah.
And so don't, college is hard. Been there, done that. Went on for my master's, and I would tell women that it's not always recognized even in the workforce to this day. And I'm thinking, what? I worked hard for that. And I'm amazed how different companies and people that interview you don't always recognize your accomplishments and what you've done. But don't let it discourage you either. So keep moving in the direction of getting that degree if you want to get that degree before you just turn it off. And then, like I tell my daughter, I would tell you, is always stay flexible, stay resilient, because we're always evolving. Every industry is continually evolving and changing. Now we have a new degree I found out about called esports, right? So now you've got a whole different degree that's being started because of the momentum that's taking place with esports. I saw that in the computers back in the day when that was really the up and coming thing, IT, right? Degrees were being started because of that.
Yeah.
So being flexible and be open to change, like I tell my daughter, is get your degree, but realize the degree you have now will open up doors, and you'll be doing something completely different in 10 years. So everything plays a part in our life. I have a bachelor's in journalism, and I'll tell you, even though I didn't pursue it as a degree, I still see how it plays out in my life. I write my blog. I think that's contributed to knowing how to write.
Yeah.
I did newsletters. I've done writing. And yet I never made a career out of it. But I still use it, right, in some fashion. I have a master's in HR, and I still use it. How I relate to people, interact with people, is all because of a lot of things I learned about human resources. So nothing goes to waste. Nothing goes to waste. But just to keep doing what you believe in, but don't be quick to just give it up. Think it through before you decide to make that kind of a change. And the younger women, listen, us mature generation, we are here for you. We want to see you be successful. Learn from us, learn from our mistakes, learn from our successes. Let's partner together because I want to see you go further and farther than you ever thought possible. And
Yeah.
I really believe that.
Hey, hit that like button and subscribe to my channel.
That's good. You really pointed out something really interesting in there, in that as you were sharing that, is leveraging the differences, and that's something I deal with a lot and work with a lot, especially doing cross-cultural leadership and
Mm,
working with different cultures, is learning to how can we leverage those differences to benefit us all. A lot of times that is to, like, some of the things you share, but it's also just us coming to the table and really being willing to, learn from each other, and to share our experiences and take those things and use them for our benefit in the future. And one of the things I always talk about too with people, especially when it comes to education, and like you, I went and got a college degree. I finished my master's degree later in my career, uh, and I learned and benefited a lot from it. For the young person today, if they were come to ask for my advice, I would ask them, well, what degree are you going to pursue? What direction you're going to have with that? How are you going to use that to, let's say, we'll use leverage your career in the
mhm,
future. But you also got to keep in mind, if you're going to invest tons of money and go into debt, on average, it takes 15 years for you to see a return on investment on that education. And both you and I work in an industry, in our coaching industry, and we have people that they want to get better, but when it comes time to investing in themselves and paying for a good coach and putting the money out there for it, they are not willing to do it. And their return on investment for those experiences are going to be a lot quicker and sooner and much more, around 500 to 700%. And we see people hesitate on that. So as these young people and these young women are launching their careers, or maybe their mid-career,
mhm.
one of the things that they need to keep in mind, if they spent that money on their education, why aren't they go ahead and spend it on themselves again and invest in
Right.
something that's going to have a higher return on investment as
Yeah.
well? So you pointed out something too. You pointed out your age for us,
Mhm.
and
How does that?
so what
And it's
about,
only a number.
yeah, what about those women of your generation that are,
Mhm,
kind of, you're getting closer to end of your corporate career,
mm,
retirement, you're starting to see retirement around the corner. Uh, and you feel like you kind of accomplished everything you want to accomplish. What
yeah.
advice would you recommend to those women? Do they stay there, ride it out, or do they launch something and go into something different and do something new?
Well, it's a great age to be because there's a lot that I'm learning.
Hmm.
I do see age discrimination quite a bit, and it's sad
Yeah.
because again, I see it very clearly now in a lot of different ways that I won't go into. But I would say I just interviewed Laura Fortgang, and we talked about this. And
Hmm.
that if you know the runway of your corporate career is kind of coming to an end, then start planning. Start thinking about what is it that you want to do. Whether you want to call it retirement and you're
Hmm.
done with the corporate side, but you might have 30, 40 more years ahead of you. I mean,
Hmm.
we can live a long time.
Yeah.
So what's that going to look like? And then start preparing. So if you think, okay, I want to give up my corporate career at 65 or 66, then start planning, start making those preparations. Financially, you have to do that, right?
Yeah.
And then, what is it? What are some of your interests? No one's going to want to just sit around because they get bored very quickly. So you really have to also think about your mindset.
Hmm.
And you have to realize, okay, and I've heard this from people that have retired, that they realize, oh wow, like it is different, right? One minute
Yeah.
you're getting up by the alarm, and the next day you're kind of sleeping in, and it's different.
Yeah.
Not everyone can make that shift.
Hmm.
So really preparing yourself for that. So if this runway is your corporate career and you decide the corporate, not someone to sign it for you, but if you're deciding it's going to end here and I'm going to do this, start planning for that. If
Hmm.
you know your company kind of fades people out at a certain age, okay, start preparing for that. Because
Hmm.
maybe there's something else for you to do. Maybe it's It's starting your own business. Maybe it's just working part-time somewhere and kind of then doing the things that you want to do. You are in control. And even though corporate tends to push some people out
Yeah.
at a certain age, that doesn't have to define you. When I got laid off, I said to my friend, I said, I'm seeing age discrimination more. And I said, but if I run for president, I could be 70 years old and become president. There's no age limit on that, right?
Yeah.
If they're in the 40s as a president, we think, oh, they're kind of young, don't think they have a lot of experience. But if they're older, we're like, yeah. But when you come into corporate, it doesn't work that way.
Mm.
If you think about it, it's really true. We look at certain things differently. So I would say to them, age is just a number. I have to think about what my age is.
Yeah.
Sometimes I think younger because I'm not letting age define me. And that it's never too late to start something new.
Mm-hmm.
And even if you're not quite where you thought you would be, it's okay. It's still not too late. There's always time. It's just a matter of what are you going to do with it. I'm going to be an empty nester pretty soon. I can tell you, I'm already changing my mindset of what it's going to look like because I know I'm going to be an emotional person.
Yeah.
I know I'm going to probably bawl my eyes out at his graduation and at the open house, but I'm okay with that because I'm actually putting some things in place.
Yeah.
I'm actually planning some things. Do I want to move? And I'm excited about that. Like I'm changing my mindset from I'm going to be empty nester to oh my gosh, I can move anywhere I want.
That's right.
I got 50 states to choose from. I can go international. And then when you do that and look at your opportunities, these changes coming up aren't going to not going to throw you off. You're going to pivot. You're going to make changes, but you can embrace it. And I'm choosing to embrace it. And yes, it's hard when corporate pushes you out. It is hard, but it will not define me. I will choose the path that I want to go on. I will choose the path I want to be on. Again, it comes back to what can you control?
Yeah.
And your mindset, ladies, no matter what your age is, your mindset is so important. And I didn't learn this until I was in my 40s. All the things I'm doing now, I didn't learn until then because I got exposed to all these wonderful people that I learned about self-limiting beliefs. I never knew I was operating in that. So for me, 40 was like, bing, I just woke up.
Yeah.
A little late, but I woke up. So that's why I'm passionate about the younger generation, saying, hey, you know what, learn from me, glean from me, because I can tell you what's ahead and then things you can avoid, but then carve out your own path because you're going to make your own mistakes anyway. So that's okay. So for you and the mature generation, it's not the end. It's just the beginning. There are many great things ahead of you. Start thinking about now what you want that to look like. And then start going in that direction, start planning it. So that when corporate pushes you out or when life happens, many women go through divorce at this age too late in life. It can be life-changing and it can be shattering to your ego and finances. But you can recover. You can get through that. What happens now doesn't define you and it's not your story. You still can keep writing your story. So I would say keep moving forward. Doesn't have to be retirement. It's not retire. I like what Laura said. It's not retiring from, but it's what are you retiring to?
Okay.
What are you going to?
Yeah.
And focus on that, and you will make it through those life changes.
Yeah. I mean, I've been through some of that myself as a male, watching my kids graduate, going, I went through a divorce as well, getting my kids out of the house and all that kind of good stuff. And going through some of that transition and it was been interesting, and like you said, it's good to have a plan and start thinking about that ahead of time and doing some things for yourself you never did before, and thinking about loving yourself and doing things, just for you. Because honestly, as probably as a mother or a wife, you're always thinking about somebody else, and that happens for dads as well at the same time. But
can I just share something real quick? And the reason why I'm passionate about planting the seeds now for what's ahead is that when my kids were babies, I opened up their tuition funds 21 years ago and 18 years ago. And we are reaping the rewards now. And so we didn't touch it. I let it invest. I put some money in it. And then, I had to let it sit there because I didn't have any more money to put into it. So the reason I'm saying that is because even though it was years in the making, we're now reaping the benefits of it. And so if you start planning now, whether it's a year, 6 years, start planting those seeds now of preparation and change and preparing of what you want it to look like, because you will reap the benefits of it, and you want to reap the benefits of it in a good way, right?
Yeah, so true. So I would like for you to address one other type of female, and this has to do with a female like my daughter. She's early in her career. Um, she's in the process of planning a wedding. Okay. She's a counselor. She finished her education. She's got a good amount of student debt. All right. And I see a lot of leadership potential. She's a really gifted, and of course she's my daughter, but she is. And one of the things I keep telling her is go write that book. Might not be a book. You are starting a podcast. And the reason I'm telling her that is because she's invested. She's got all this money in this education coming out. And let's just be honest, you're being a counselor the first 3 years, you don't make shit. $30,000, $35,000 a year. That's nothing when you got an $85,000 student loan to pay off. Starting out, almost a house payment. Think about it, and I'm already telling her, go write that book. Or there's enough content out there, and I see it all the time. Some of the biggest names in the business, they have created material or a book, podcast, and let's say only 20% of it is original. Only 20%. What would you say to that young woman that has huge amount of potential, but also wants to have a family, wants to be a wife, wants to have the kids, and wants to have a successful career? How do you manage all that? And do you do those extra things too? Do you write that book? Do you have that podcast? What would your
So the phrase that I always hear is, you can have it all. And I believe you can, but that rolls out years, seasons at a time, right? So I believe she can accomplish all those things. It just won't be tomorrow, right?
Yeah.
So I always, and this is just me preaching to myself, you really kind of, and I've done the same thing with my daughters, like, okay, what's this going to look like when you get your degree? Is really to kind of take that step back and hit pause and evaluate, because there's a lot of great things that she wants to accomplish, right? And she's getting married, so there's money that's going to go into that. And it can start to get overwhelming, right? It can be a snowball in a bad way, where it's just this huge thing coming at you, debt, and then it's going to hit you. So I think it's really, what is it that she's wanting to do? So I always quote Laura Fortgang because I admire her. She's another one of the women I admire, and I interviewed her, and she's just awesome. But she talks about the resume, and I fell into this trap myself, that when I got laid off in 2010 after 18 years in banking, worked my way up the corporate ladder, and then was let go during the recession. First thing I did is I went to my resume. I went, okay, what have I done? What's my education look like? And thinking I had to stay in that, right? Now, I was older than your daughter, so I had enough time under my belt where I could like, do I want to do this? Do I don't? But what Laura talks about is a lot of times we get caught into that resume of what our degrees are, experience, and then we forget about who we are. What is it that we want to do? Who is it that we want to be? What's the DNA? The resume and the education, the titles are like the shell of the egg, but inside's the yolk where the DNA sits. And so it's who are you? Who do you want to be? And I think with the generation coming up, and you see the pressure and the changes that we as adults know change happens, they haven't quite hit that yet. They're thinking, I got this degree, do I want it? I don't know. And then we're thinking, well, the money we spent, and why are you not doing something with it?
Yeah.
It's really tricky, right? It's tricky because you don't want to freak them out and stress them out. I would encourage her to just step back. I don't know how she processes everything, if she writes it down. I'm a column person. This is pros and cons, and it helps me get it out visually. But for her to really step back and say, okay, I want to accomplish a lot. I've got a degree. What do I want to do with that degree? What does that, how can that degree be used? In counseling, there's so many areas she could use it, right?
Yeah.
What does she want to do with that? And then where does marriage fit in? Is it 6 months from now? Okay, well, that's going to change things. And that's a conversation too with her future husband. Are you gonna keep working, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So, and then you have debt. Of course, Dave Ramsey is big on helping people get out of debt.
Mm-hmm.
I would certainly point her in the direction of someone that has that wisdom of, okay, you've got college debt. You got to start saving. What are you going to do? And have her go through that program, because I think that will help a lot for her as far as having a plan in place to get out of debt. So she's got out of debt. She has this career and she has this marriage and family, and she's got 3 huge things that she's looking at.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really, I feel, stepping back and looking at all that, going, okay, the debt, bringing that down is important. It's not going to go down tomorrow.
Yep.
Let's have a plan. Let's get a plan. What do you want to do with this degree? What does it look like? What does it feel like? Does she want to write a book? Maybe you want the book, but does she want the book, right?
Yeah.
I mean, like, what is it that she wants to do?
Yeah.
And she's probably going to say, I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay. It's okay. So let's just chunk it down. What is it that you think this degree can help you with? And if she has interest in writing a book, great. Maybe she joins a support group of people that are writing books, right? Doesn't have to put a lot of money into it, just getting people that are on the same path as her. And that might help her settle in exploring these other things. And of course, marriage and family, that's a huge life event.
Yeah.
And it's one you just don't, I know, you just don't throw that out there. Oh, okay, if they have, it's really putting that into perspective. If she's in that relationship and they are getting married, that's that conversation with the spouse of the debt. What do I want to do with my degree? And what are we going to do as a family? So there's 3 life events. I believe that she can have all 3 working the way she wants. It's just really taking the time to think it through. Get a plan for the debt, looking at the degree. What are the options with it? What do you want to do with it? You want to own your own, you want to be your own counselor and have your own business. Great. People do that all the time. And then does she want to write a book?
Maybe. I don't know. I mean, I know what she's specializing in, and just that triggered that thought. I could just see that. I could see her as a speaker as well. So I just see those gifts in her, and I'm just trying to encourage her to think outside the box.
Yep.
I'm just saying.
Is she a visual kind of person? Because one of the things you can do is, if I do this a lot with my business, is you make a circle, and let's say in the middle you put degree, whatever that degree, counseling degree.
Yeah.
Then you have these lines that go out.
Yeah.
And one might be write a book. One might be start my own counseling business. Another one might be start a nonprofit.
Yeah.
Another one might be whatever. And out of the degree, what comes out of there? And that can give her a visual. Plus, it gives her a chance to really dream big. I tell my kids all the time, dream big, to the point where dreaming big is great, but it's a process to walk that dream out. We're going that with my son right now. I mean, he's got a big dream ahead of him, right?
Yeah.
And helping him navigate that when there's a lot of naysayers coming at us, right?
Yeah.
So I keep telling him, dream big, right?
Yeah.
Because I want him to do what you're saying, get out of the box.
Yeah.
Just dream like there's no financial stress on you. Dream as if, there's no hindrances, to get those juices going, right? Keep those things going. So for her, she could do a circle with her degree in it, and then these lines, and then there's a circle on the end of the line. What is that? And then maybe something, if she owns her own counseling business, maybe then there's 2 lines that come from there, and what's that going to look like?
Yeah.
It gives her a place to get it all out from here onto paper.
Yes.
And to explore. And then she can go, okay, yeah, I'd like to do that, but yeah, that's 5 years down the road. Oh yeah, writing a book. Okay, I can do that. Maybe that's 2 years down the road. But it kind of gets all that stress and everything that's going on and puts it on paper. And at least, it's kind of like if you take notes, a to-do list, you don't forget to do stuff.
Yeah.
It's kind of the same thing. If there's so much going on up here, but she puts it on paper, at least it gets it someplace so she can go back to it. And even if she never uses it, as far as like starts her own business, at least it gets that idea out on paper.
Okay.
So I think that the young people coming out of college, just like my son going into college, what do you want to be? What do you want to do? What kind of degree do you want? I'm only 17. How do I know?
Yeah.
She's experiencing the same thing, just on the other end.
Yeah. True.
Because now she's got the degree. Oh my God, what do I do with it?
Yeah.
Where do I go with this? Where do I take this piece of paper with me?
Yeah.
Right? And that's where she just needs to explore what are the things, like the DNA inside of her. What are the things you want to do with that?
Yeah.
And explore it and give her a little bit of time to process that through, because she'll figure it out. It's just she's on the other end now, coming out of school. She's not alone in that boat. Many young people are figuring out what I do with this degree. I never did anything with it because I didn't know what to do with it. I didn't know what to do with a journalism degree. Sounds stupid. I was so overwhelmed. I didn't know what to do with it.
Yeah.
And that's just who I was back then.
Yeah.
Now I would say to my daughter, what I'm telling your daughter is, okay, let's sit down and think about the options. What do the options look like? And maybe it's not in this state, maybe it's in another state.
Yeah.
Something triggered them to go down that path of that degree. Let's explore that. Why did you want to do this? What triggered? Something was there that triggered it. Let's not lose that. Let's revisit that. Because maybe it got lost in the stress of getting the degree. Let's go back to what was the first flame of fire that was there, and fan that flame.
Yeah. Well, cool. Well, cool. Well, thank you. That was really beneficial. I think everyone will benefit that. I think you added a lot of value to this episode, and I would just encourage others to check out the description below to follow you on your different social media. I know you're on LinkedIn. You're also on Instagram. Where else would they find
you? If they
you?
go to my link tree, which will be in the comments below, that will show you where my website's at, all my social media, my blog. I kind of contains it easier there. Or if you go to courageouslivingtoday.com, that's my website. So either one will get you to where the social media stuff is at.
All right. Well, thank you. I really enjoyed having you on this
episode. I really enjoyed this. Thank you.
I'm Miles 3. I hope this has been of value to you. Check out one of the videos above and sign up for your complimentary coaching call in the description below.